This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Immerse yourself in the stars we do not see, Australian Indigenous art, the largest display of Australian Indigenous art ever presented in North America, now on view at the Denver Art Museum. This exhibition offers a captivating, multi-layered experience featuring 130 works by 142 artists, drawn exclusively from the National Gallery of Victoria's world-leading collection. These works will introduce you to the art, resilience, and depth of the world's oldest continuous living culture. On view now through July 26th. Visit denverartmuseum.org to purchase tickets. This episode is brought to you by TaskRabbit. Denverites know how to work hard and play hard, but you don't have to do it all yourself. TaskRabbit has been helping Mile High City residents for over a decade with everything from furniture assembly to minor home repairs. Don't let that to-do list ruin your weekend. Use the TaskRabbit app to describe what you need and find a skilled tasker in your neighborhood who can take it off your plate. And TaskRabbit offers transparent pricing. You'll see the hourly rate up front, which includes the tasker's rate and the service fee, so there's no surprises at checkout. Download the TaskRabbit app or visit taskrabbit.com today to get those home to-dos crossed off. Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Today we're discussing Colfax Bus Rapid Transit, Federal Boulevard Bus Rapid Transit, the proposed Asia Center redevelopment, and how they are all connected. Plus, we hear from you, our dear listeners. Producer Paul Caroli, hi.
Hey, what's up, Bree? How are you doing?
I'm good. Just chilling. I was out of vanilla syrup this morning, so I went back to Starbucks after 3 weeks of not going to Starbucks. So
you're really on and off with Starbucks.
I'm trying to save. It's so expensive. I was like, this is crazy. Like, you can make this at home. What are you doing?
I got
love
so
my
mad in the
baristas.
grocery store yesterday that the price is going up.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
But it's
I
still
came home and I was
cheaper.
just steaming. It's like, Megan, the coffee, I can't stand it.
Have you picked a coffee? What are you going with?
I'm on the Kroger brand. Someone recommended to me that I should go to the Boyer's actual shop up in almost Commerce City because they might have the wholesale prices. But yeah, they raised the price on that in King Soopers again.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I do Cafe Bustelo pre-made iced espresso. I don't know if it's cheap, but it's cheaper than Starbucks. So
Hey, there you go.
But we're not talking about Starbucks. We're talking about Bus Rapid Transit, BRT. We've got multi-layers of this conversation about BRT today.
BRT is Brat?
BRT. Well, we are
Is that
are we 2
reference
years?
about a year late?
At least. I think we might be 2 years
2
away
years
from Brat
late.
Summer. Maybe 3 years away from
BRT
Brat
is
Summer.
kind of Brat. Always making trouble, but maybe it's cool.
That could apply to RTD a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
Having some PR struggles. But we're talking about the BRT part of the RTD, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
So where should we start?
Let's start on federal.
Okay.
You were at this meeting last week. It's kind of a follow-up. We talked about a week and a half ago now about this whole social media uproar over proposed redevelopment of a strip mall called the Asia Center on Federal. This has been a big story in the news, but it really started on Instagram. Naked Denver, I think, was the first to post about it because the owner of this strip mall submitted some kind of plan to demolish the strip mall and build 4 stories of residential housing and then ground floor retail. But this place was really important to people. And so there was this huge outpouring of love and frustration. And now I think over 10,000 people have signed a petition.
12,000.
12,000 it's up to? My God.
Yep.
For calling for a more inclusive process, basically. But it's people have big feelings about it, I think, is last where we left it. But you know more because you were at a community meeting last week. And I'm dying to know what you learned.
I will tell you the first meeting, the press conference, was not a community meeting. This was for the press, as made clear by how many people from the press were there and how many people from the community were not there. But I do want to just touch on something you mentioned, which is I don't know if Naked Denver realized that they touched this off, but they started it for sure. People were not aware of this project in any capacity from what I understand. until this Naked Denver post appeared with this rendering of this proposal for the Asia Center. Again, this is on the southwest side of town where I live. Federal Boulevard around Mississippi is where this particular shopping center is. This is a heavily Vietnamese neighborhood, and a lot of the businesses are owned by the Vietnamese community, Chinese community. I mean, it's quite a diaspora. But yes, so this post appeared. People went nuts. Like, what is happening to this strip mall? So for folks that don't know, it's a pretty basic strip mall. It's one of many along Federal Boulevard. This one in particular is called the Asia Center, and it has sort of a pagoda-shaped sign. But a lot of businesses that are important to folks and their families exist here. And so I think that was the most shocking part was, oh gosh, this might be gone. And the latest update I would say that I saw is a couple days after this community meeting and then the BRT meeting, a new rendering appeared. Did you see the new rendering, Paul?
I did, and yes, it looked like the old rendering, but it had the slanted pagoda roofs on it.
Yes,
and I think the Christina, the realtor who had been
Katrina Wynn.
the realtor, who'd put out this petition. She was like, "Did you just tell ChatGPT to make this more community rooted or something?" Which was a funny take, but I'm skeptical about the renderings now. I don't know if I'm feeling like what's true and what's false. My alarms are going off.
Yes, I think that's what happened. And I think Katrina really hit on that point too. Her post said, ChatGPT, can you make this more ... Asian? And that is what it looks like. I think she is accurate. And so she actually did some research and said that 3 days after the meeting, this new rendering was filed as the design for it. And she describes it as pagoda roof lines on every corner, Asian architecture detailing on the facade, decorative tiered roof elements, warmer tones, courtyard trees. Suddenly the building looks like it belongs on Federal Boulevard. Suddenly cultural identity matters. Suddenly the community is worth designing for. And she said 3 days and 780,000 views later. And I think she's talking about her Instagram posts about this. So she really touched on, I think, how many folks were feeling about it. So as far as we know, this is the latest rendering of this proposed building. And that's the latest.
I'm curious what you hear. So my understanding is that the owner, the developer person whose name was on this rendering proposal thing that was submitted, his name is Jason Trong. My understanding is he did not show up to any of this community meeting or the press conference. And instead he sent a lawyer, Chong Lee, who I think also emailed us last week. What are we hearing from them?
So he said, the lawyer said at this press conference that he was actually representing, I think, close to a dozen folks in this real estate group.
Okay.
Now, I don't know why Jason
Investors.
Yes, investors in this group. But he showed up instead. There wasn't any explanation as to why, but he said he was there representing the folks that owned the strip mall, and he was there to answer any questions. And the audience for this press conference in the Asia Center was honestly 75% press. It was camera people from various news outlets. Gil Asakawa was there. The folks Gil was there from CAPU, Colorado Asian Pacific United, but he also writes for Westward. Hannah Tron was there, who's making the documentary about the area. And then there were a couple business owners and a couple that I talked to who had not heard of this project until the Instagram post went up. And it seemed to me, from what I gathered from folks, no one wanted to talk to me on the record, that they were just learning about this development and BRT. And there was a lot of concern about it. So it was a very strange press conference in that, there wasn't much revealed. Other than,
what did they say, though? I mean, did they address the fears and concerns?
Yes.
Did they say more about the project?
No. Well, the lawyer said it is very, very much in the preliminary stages, which I was talking to a gentleman who's also a landlord in an adjoining parcel near this space. He did not want to be on the record, but and he felt that the proposal being what we saw in Naked Denver with the renderings seemed to him like this is very much farther ahead than they're alluding to. But the lawyer was saying, oh, no, we're at the very beginning. We haven't talked to any of the community members, but we're going to. This is our plan. This is going to be community rooted. And I didn't get the sense that folks felt that was really the case. But again, this is just just what he was presenting. He said, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Again, I think he was alluding to this Instagram post. And he was like, we are here to connect with the community.
Yeah.
And then a gentleman named Father Dang spoke, who said he was representative of the community. And he sort of blamed the community. He said that they had done meetings, but no one had showed up to them. But I didn't hear from anyone that they had heard of these meetings. So to be fair, this is a common refrain. This is a common refrain in planning. I have been the person that's done community outreach meetings. It is difficult to get folks, but it was just surprising based on the folks that I talked to that none of them had heard of it. So
the misinformation thing was interesting. I saw that in a few reports. That quote stuck out to me because Councilman Alvidrez as well called out misinformation in the early coverage. But did anyone say what the misinformation was? Did any of them correct anything?
No. It was just a lot of, there's nothing's permanent, nothing's set. We're still talking to the community. Don't worry, this is just a proposal. But there was not really any concrete anything given that I collected in sitting through that press conference. And I looked back at some coverage from other folks, and they also didn't seem to report much new information that had possibly been misconstrued. So it's kind of hard to call out misinformation, but then not say what it is and not correct it. Yes. Yeah.
That's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do then?
Well, and I will just say, too, a huge part of this conversation is the fact that there has been zero translation provided, either at this at this press conference or at the community meeting in a strip mall across the street, dominated by Vietnamese-owned businesses. And I was in a tiny room in the following meeting about BRT where no translation was provided either. So I also have to wonder, like, who are these meetings for if translation was not being provided? I mean, I think that's probably leading to a lot of this supposed misinformation if people can't even access the information that's out there, you know? So
yeah. So you've alluded to this other meeting. There's the press conference outside the Asia Center from the lawyer and some of the council member, and then afterwards, Father Dang. Can't forget Father Dang. I think they scheduled the press conference for right before this other meeting that's kind of connected, and it intersects with this other thing we're talking about, the bus rapid transit line that CDOT is planning to build on Federal. That's what was going to happen that day anyway. You attended this meeting as well.
Yes.
What did you learn about the connections and the BRT project itself?
Sure. So I think the Asia Center redevelopment is definitely part of this moment, right? Because Federal is about to undergo a huge transformation with BRT. But something I want to reiterate that I think was not immediately clear to me until I went to this meeting is how big the Federal BRT project is. It starts at 120th Avenue in Westminster on Federal and goes all the way to Dartmouth and Inglewood. So this is a huge swath of neighborhoods and businesses. So it's not just this section, right, of Federal that we've been talking about with the Asia Center. So it covers a lot of ground. And this presentation was just like, this is coming. Your street's going to be torn up. It's going to take a couple of years. It is projected to be finished by 2030. And I think the main difference here, too, between the Federal BRT and the Colfax BRT is Colfax is much skinnier than Federal Boulevard is. So the disruption will still be similar in that, like, they're going to have to be closing entrances. You know, like it's going to be hard to get to businesses along Federal while they're building this. But there is a little bit more space for cars than there is on Colfax, which was a huge concern for people, honestly, in this meeting. But again, the big concern, no translation in this meeting. And the thing that I noticed anecdotally as a person that lives in this neighborhood was I saw a lot of familiar faces of business owners, of restaurants and places I go to in this neighborhood. And this seemed to be the first time that these folks were hearing about this. And from a community outreach perspective, you can literally walk into these restaurants and find the owners. They are there almost every single day. And I think that was a frustration for some folks was they were like, this is the first we're learning about this and we're not hard to find. So
well, how far out is construction projected?
I think it's not projected to start until 2027. Yeah. So we are in the final design phases, and then 2027 to 2029 is construction, testing, and commissioning. And that's basically when they'll build it.
Interesting.
It's between 2027 and 2029. And something else that the BRT folks shared was, well, we'd be having to tear up the street anyway because Federal has not been resurfaced in 20 years. So you maybe would be experiencing construction anyway. We are just enhancing the street by drastically changing it and adding this new transit system. This episode is brought to you by the Choir League. Denver Choir League is a social choir for young and young at heart professionals. The Denver Choir League invites you to join them for a one-night-only performance of Rebel, Rejoice, Repeat. This will be a soul-igniting evening of song in partnership with Lonnie Norwood and the extraordinary Uniting Voices Chicago Youth Choir. The event will also feature a stellar lineup of musical talent, including brass players from the Denver Municipal Band. You'll hear stirring spirituals, freedom songs from South Africa, a beloved gospel anthem, and other musical surprises that invite everyone to lift their voices. This will be an unforgettable night that will move your heart and raise your spirits. The performance is on Friday, May 15th at the Central Presbyterian Church. Doors open at 6:15, performance is at 7, and there'll be a cash bar. Grab your tickets today at centraldenver.com/concerts. That's centraldenver.com/concerts. This episode is brought to you by MultiPass. Founded by event hosts for event hosts, MultiPass is the platform to sell tickets and memberships and build a connected local audience. When you sell tickets through MultiPass, your crowd can utilize the unique community chat feature that unlocks post-RSVP. This helps attendees connect and engage with each other. How cool is that? Plus, MultiPass solves cash flow issues with same-day payouts and has revenue-sharing tools built in, which automatically splits ticket revenue between producers, performers, and promoters. Use the promoter dashboard to boost attendance with built-in tools to add street teams and track performance. MultiPass also offers membership management tools to build loyalty with your own audience. Proudly based in Denver and deeply rooted in the local event and creative scene, MultiPass is designed to help everyone in the event ecosystem win, not just the platform. Learn more at multipass.com. That's multipass.com.
The last time we talked about the federal BRT, there was some talk about would it be a center lane dedicated to the bus, or would it be on the sides of the street, and where on federal? I mean, I got to admit, I don't know that whole stretch of federal. That's a long way. I just don't know it that intimately. But I remember them saying sometimes it would be in the middle, sometimes it would be on the side. Have they finalized that level of the design yet? Do you know?
So the proposed design is sidewalk, bus lane, 2 traffic lanes, and then a turn lane on one side. And then so that's the east side. The west side will have sidewalk, bus lane, 2 general purpose lanes, no turn lane. So it's slimming down federal for cars, but not nearly in the same way that Colfax literally changed how the street was laid out.
Interesting.
So the bus will run along the side.
And different concerns for businesses, I think. And it probably depends on the business too. Federal is just such a different streetscape. Colfax businesses, I mean, I talked to a few Colfax businesses about how they're dealing with the BRT construction lately, and the parking on the street is a big concern. Whereas on federal, you don't really see a lot of parking on the side of the street.
Yes, a lot of federal is parking lots. And, but that also, so that concern was addressed with the Asia Center. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up, where they said that they would be slimming down their parking lot, but they're actually just going to be changing the way that it's laid out so that parking spaces are angled. Right now, they're not, so that they can fit more cars, but it will slim down the parking lot a little bit. So that may happen along federal. I think that there was less of a concern about parking from businesses and more of a concern about access to businesses by cars, and the transition in the meantime, as they're building this, how will that affect their businesses? But it doesn't seem to me that parking will be the issue. Another point that the BRT folks brought up that I thought was interesting was, I think initially right now they said the bus along federal serves around 5,000 people a day. And they said after the initial opening of BRT, they're projecting, I think, around 9,000 people a day, because it's going to be faster, obviously, faster service, more frequent service. And then they said over time, they're hoping, I think, to 12 to 13,000 people a day. So their pitch was, you're going to get more customers. But the struggle with the conversation that I was seeing with the BRT was the BRT folks kept saying, this is going to revitalize the area, which was not answering the question of, will this push out businesses? Because businesses there was like a couple layers of conversation happening because, again, there was no translation. So there was a couple folks in the room that were kind of trying to ask questions that I just felt like there was a lot of like conversations happening while they were talking because someone was trying to translate for all these other people. And that was it was honestly, it was a shit show. I'll be honest with you.
And confusing.
Also, the giant TV screen wasn't working. So everyone had to crowd around a tiny laptop. And there were literally like 50 people in a room the size of like my kitchen and living room. And also a lot of these were older folks and there was nowhere to sit. So it just felt very not in service of the community. And there was a gentleman there from CDOT, I didn't get his name, who said they had done some business outreach, but he kind of alluded to the fact that they had not done it for this section of federal. So as I was saying, this is a massive project. So they may have talked to people at the 120th area businesses, but not necessarily the federal and Mississippi businesses. And that was very clear by the confusion happening in the room.
Well, that was this meeting.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, apparently.
They're telling the businesses.
They're telling the businesses. But again, I've done community outreach on these things and like it did seem like there should have been to get all the way to this part of the process and folks not know about it. There was some disconnection for sure. So
and what is this part?
Yeah. What's that?
Like how would you characterize the current moment?
Honestly, it feels like BRT is much farther along than anybody that might be affected by it in this neighborhood had any idea until this moment. And it felt very frustrating, especially with the lack of translation and the lack of access to visuals. And they were talking to the press, which was mostly English speaking people. And that was very obvious to me. And I could tell the tension too. I mean, it was like Jamie Torres was there. She's my council person on this side of federal, on the east side or on the west side. And then Flora Alvidrez is here for the east side of federal. And I don't know necessarily if everybody, because someone asked, is there a business fund? Is there a fund to help businesses? Which we'll talk about in a minute, I think, with Colfax.
Like they have with Colfax.
And Flora was kind of like, there's a fund. And then Jamie Torres was like, yep, there's a fund and there's no money in it. So I was sensing like there is a lot that needs to be discussed to find out if there is really any support. And that did not seem to go over well with folks for good reason. So that's where we're at. There's another meeting, I think, scheduled for May. I will find out and I can put information in the show notes and I'll definitely be there. But let's talk about Colfax then, because again, federal, we're talking about businesses and their concerns about impacts. This is an ongoing conversation with Colfax BRT. Paul, where are we with Colfax BRT right now in terms of like the timeline?
We're about halfway through.
Okay.
Construction started October 2024, and it is going to last until near the end of next year. And they're going in segments, starting from Broadway, moving all the way out to Aurora. Just this past Friday, they actually broke ground on that last segment that's going mostly through Aurora. And there was another ceremony or something. The Aurora higher-ups were there. And that was actually pretty interesting. Denver 7 reported that the Aurora city government's treating this whole thing very differently from Denver. They're not doing micro grants at all. Mayor Mike Kaufman told Denver 7, we saw how they did it, speaking of Denver, and we're actually going to go a different direction. Ours will not be very disruptive at all to local businesses. And that's for a couple reasons, because they're not, in Aurora, it's not going to be down a center lane. It's going to be on the sides. And they're also they're supporting businesses in a different way. Instead of the micro grants like Denver did, Aurora has formed this like downtown development authority, like we've seen in downtown Denver with the tax increment financing. And they're using that to support the businesses instead.
Oh, interesting approach. Okay.
But yeah, this thing is fascinating right now. I mean, the question of like how this has been affecting businesses on Colfax is so important as we look to federal and the other lines that are proposed. Colorado Boulevard is coming, and that's in the pipeline as well. And we got a question about this from a listener. That's why I wanted to look into it a little bit more. Last week, you and we had been, we've been reading stories about businesses being affected for years now. And this listener questioned, are they actually, is the impact actually that big? Are these businesses really, really suffering right now? Or what does the data say? What does the numbers say? Yeah. So I started asking some questions, and I got a few interesting pieces of data. One is from Frank Locantore, who runs the Colfax Avenue Business Improvement District, which is a sponsor of CityCast Denver occasionally. They're going to have us at their Indie Bash again later in the summer this year. But Frank tells me that the bid actually counts storefronts every month and tracks whether or not storefronts in the business improvement district's area are vacant or housing open businesses. So this data shows, according to Frank, that occupancy is actually up since before BRT construction started. He says that at the end of March this year, it was at 84%. Prior to BRT construction, the occupancy rate was 81%.
Huh.
So that would indicate that more businesses have opened than have closed.
Okay. And we're coming to the tail end of this construction for this segment of
the
BRT.
First segment should be completed by the end of this year. They're looking at fall. It's a little bit of a moving target, but I think September, October is the last I heard.
What was Frank's reading on this data? How did he see this in the big? He's on this street every day, talking to these businesses every day, seeing this. What did he think?
Well, I think he talks about the big picture, and he hears that from business owners too. They all know that this is short-term pain, hopefully for long-term gain. I mean, the vision for this street is reducing travel time along the corridor, 15 to 30 minutes, with buses arriving every 4.3 minutes. And there's big job centers at both ends of the BRT line, downtown, and then the Anschutz Medical Campus.
Center,
there should be a lot of people moving up and down that could be relying on this bus. They're building a lot of housing. The city leaders are trying to incentivize more housing up and down Colfax. So that should all mean a big boom in business once this transit corridor is finally up and running. But for the short term, it has meant what we've talked about today, reduction in parking, harder to access, and just the general impression from customers that Colfax is maybe not the nicest place to do business right now.
Do we know anything about the micro grant program in relationship to this? Because, you were just talking about Aurora taking a different approach. Do we even have any anecdotal information on how did that help at all?
I talked to someone today named David Martinez, because he and his wife are actually opening a brand new business on Colfax this month. It's called Cafecito. It's the third Cafecito in the region. This is the first one that they are owning. It's not quite like franchise owners, but they're using the branding and they're opening their own business. And they already own two businesses on this block right on Colfax and High. They own a vape shop and they own a dog grooming salon called Pampered Paws.
Yep.
And David Martinez told me that they applied for the micro grants for the dog grooming and the vape shop, didn't get it for the vape shop, did get it for the dog grooming, and they got $15,000. And he told me that covered about 1 month of overhead.
Wow. That's not very much. I mean,
no, he said it was nice, but not that big of a deal. Yeah.
Oof.
But still, he's opening a brand new business during construction, which was why Frank pointed me his direction.
Because he clearly didn't give up on Colfax.
No, not at all. I think he's still pretty bullish on it overall. I mean, if anything, he's more upset about the flavored tobacco ban.
I was going to ask how that played into that.
When we were talking about his businesses, and because he was like, yeah, we lost two parking spaces outside our these two businesses, and that definitely hurt us. That's from the BRT construction, but it didn't hurt us like the flavored tobacco ban did. He said that was their number one product, and that was by far the biggest hit. He said the vape shop might not survive construction because losing the ability to sell flavored tobacco plus the construction at the same time has been a big challenge for the vape shop.
Well, I was like, what do vape shops sell then if they don't have that? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Unflavored tobacco?
Right. I can see where that's interesting though, that those things happening at the same time, the legislation and this construction.
The other thing is, though, about the fact that him and his wife are opening this Cafecito right now, seemingly doubling down on Colfax during construction. He was like, no, we made the decision 2 years ago. We wanted to open this a long time ago, but that's the other problem. Permitting. The city has taken 2 years to get the permitting and licensing in shape for us to open. And we're very grateful and happy to open, but we just couldn't do it.
This is not an uncommon thing. I think that's also, I've heard this from other businesses, that this is the struggle. The permitting office is keeping them from opening sooner so they could maybe make some money.
And I mean,
run their business.
Mayor Johnston did revamp how the permitting process is supposed to work last year. He sent some more resources that way. Business owners who apply for permits are supposed to have these like personal permit like guides, a permit Sherpa to get you through the permitting process. But apparently, at least for David Martinez, it hasn't been enough to get him open earlier. So here he is opening a coffee shop with a big fat construction project right outside.
Well, and he's not the only business. I mean, there have been other businesses that have opened since BRT construction started. Right?
Yeah, there's Ma's Kitchen and Dumpling, Hong Kong Station 3. There's another one opening soon in the old Irish Snug. I don't know if people know about this, but Robert Thompson, the old the founder of Punch Bowl Social, which went up and then down in a big way during the pandemic, he's opening a new Spanish-style tapas bar in the Irish Snug, and they're going to play soccer games like they used to.
Huh. Well, good. Honestly, I miss that place. And I'm not even a soccer person, but I enjoyed that bar. Well, this is interesting. I mean, it's definitely something to look at when we're looking at the future projects of federal. And then, of course, Colorado Boulevard, right?
Colorado Boulevard would be next. Yeah, there's an open house on May 13th. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to show up. But the last thing on Colfax, because this is where it gets really, really interesting, because that was just data from Frank and the Bid. I also got data from the city's Department of Finance. This is my current favorite data set. It's sales tax revenues for different areas of the city. So I queried for Colfax for the last 6 years, 2019 to 2025. So we have a pre-pandemic year and then the pandemic and then what's happened since. Sales tax revenues in the Colfax bid, this is East Colfax, closest to the capital, they have never gotten back to pre-pandemic levels, but post-pandemic, they peaked in 2022 and actually started going down before BRT construction started.
Interesting. So maybe
yes, 2025 was lower even than the pandemic year of 2020, but the trend of a decline started before BRT construction.
So BRT can not only be to blame potentially for struggling businesses on Colfax.
Something else is happening. I mean, maybe people were like thinking about BRT a year ahead of time and being like, oh, maybe I don't want to go to the coffee shop on Colfax.
I mean,
but I
I'll
just
be
don't
honest,
think that's real. I think it's something else.
I was going to say, most people, and this is no shade, like most human beings are not fully aware of construction projects happening until they start happening, because it's like, why would you, So that is, I wonder what that
something else is going on.
Oh, well, regardless, I'm excited to see BRT finish there, and so we can actually see it in motion and see what this brings in a year from now, Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from you, our dear listeners. This episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Listen, I've been the owner of many a jumpsuit, a tracksuit, and the occasional jogger set. I mean, it's Colorado, baby. We're all about athleisure and wearing our inside clothes outside. But somehow, Cozy Earth has managed to make something that's both comfy and cute. Seriously, Cozy Earth's bamboo brush jogger set is my new fave go-to. It's all black, it's lightweight, and it has a tapered fit that doesn't make you look like, as Oprah once said in 1997, a schlumpadinka. No. I look awesome in this thing. But somehow, it feels exactly like my super soft, super snuggly Cozy Earth pajamas. Except this jogger set is made for a trip to Costco or a school pickup and drop-off or lunch with my mom, Brooke. Paired with Cozy Earth's Lake House clogs that are made of 100% Italian wool felt, a rubber sole, and a cushioned suede footbed, I look like the cool mom that I am. This spring, give yourself the kind of comfort that lives with you all day, not just the moment you get home. Head to CozyEarth.com and use our code CozyDenver for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here on CityCast Denver. Remember, Cozy Earth, comfort lives here. Okay, we are back. It is Tuesday, where we hear from you, our brilliant and hilarious listeners, about the things that you care about. Paul, what have we got this week?
Let's talk about this one we got from Sarah C. I think this was an email in response to our newsletter item last week about Little Man ice cream. They're like taking the branding off some of their shops and just putting the Little Man name on everything. Like the Sweet Cooey's in Congress Park is now just going to be like Little Man ice cream.
Sure.
Sarah C. says, I love Little Man ice cream. I joke that it's one of the reasons I moved to Denver, but it's not really a joke. I live a few blocks from the factory and love the Willy Wonka vibes, but Sweet Cooey's is my favorite because it feels like stepping back in time.
It is a cute. They get me with the Sweet Cooey's with that like warm turquoisey.
I love that shade of whatever.
I do too.
Turquoise. Yeah, it's cool.
And they're not changing that. They're just putting the Little Man like logo and stuff in there, but that part will stay at least, which is nice.
I agree. I mean, Little Man is, it's good ice cream. I like them all. I was interested about that story because they said they're going to try to, they're going to expand the packaged goods sales. They're trying to sell nationwide pints.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Like Little Man is about on the precipice. I mean, they must have gotten some big investment from someone or something to do this, but Little Man could be the next like thing that Denver is known for in other places, which is interesting.
I was like, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, Little Man's a great brand. I think a lot of Denverites feel the way Sarah C. does.
Yeah. Well, that's so cute. Now I want to go back by there and see how it looks these days. We go to the factory a lot, obviously, because it's fun for the kids and there's the slide and stuff. But I haven't been by the Sweet Cooey's location in a while. I'll have to go check it out. As always, you can reach out to us anytime about any episode or any topic or something you see around the city that you want us to do some digging on. Give us a call, 720-500-5418. Again, we love a voicemail, but you can always leave a text. You can shoot us an email, denver@citycast.fm, and let us know what you're thinking. Paul, thanks for joining me.
See you next time, Bree.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell a business owner on Federal Boulevard about us and about BRT? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. And hey, thank you so much to our new neighbors, Sarah R. and Kate P., who just joined our membership program. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.